Hi, this is Cheryl St.Pierre, and in this video we're going to make these mini wave earrings, and they're ultra tiny. We're using tiny beads, and that's why we're using 22 gauge wire to work with, because it'd be with 20 gauge wire I don't think we could make them, but I wanted to make a simple pair of earrings that were super dainty, super tiny, because there's always a shortage of that type of earring around with the handmade variety anyways. Okay, so yeah, this is 6mm rondelles, and those are 3x2mm rondelles. Of course, you could use this design in a larger bead, but the whole idea of this design was to use the tiny beads just to make a tiny pair of earrings. So anyways, let's move on. And I wanted to ask you to leave a comment. The more comments I get, the more my videos get out there, and it really helps me, even if it's just a heart. You can give me a thumbs up saying you liked it, share the link with friends or on your Facebook, Twitter, wherever you may be, and consider joining my memberships. And the link, the button for the join is right beside the subscribe. Remember, join and subscribe are two different things, but you could check it out. And let's move on. Let's make these babies. Okay, for supplies, you're going to need 22 gauge dead soft wire, which is 0.64 millimeters. You're going to need one piece that's 2 inches long to make our template. You're going to need two pieces that are 6.5 inches long, which is 16.3 centimeters. And I forgot to say that 2 inches is 5 centimeters. You're going to need three 3x2mm rondelle beads. Now these are super tiny, that's why we're using 22 gauge wire here. And we're going to use two 6mm either round beads or 6x4mm rondelle beads. And of course your ear wires of choice. And the tools are pretty basic here. You're going to need your round nose pliers, chain nose pliers, flush cutters, and ruler. The other tool, of course, is going to be the template that we're going to make. And we'll start off with making that template right now. So I want you to take your 2-inch piece of 22 gauge wire. I want you to take your flush cutters and snip off the end so it's flat if it wasn't. And then I want you to make a nice small eye loop at the end. So we're at the very end of the wire, and if you aren't quite at the end, it won't be round. And what we would do is well, I'll just demonstrate. So you get it good and like 3/4 of the way done, and you just trim off the end like that. Then you wouldn't need to trim ahead of time if you plan on doing that anyways. So, and then now make it a P, and then you twist it back to make it the eye loop like that. Okay, so that's the eye loop. And now I want you to take your chain nose pliers, and I want you to grab it so it's not quite, so you can still see the end of the loop. And I want you to bend upwards like this, so that, and it kind of went wonky there. I'm going to straighten that out. I'm going to work hard on it a tiny bit. And that's what we want. We want this, we want it to be a 90-degree angle in there. So if it's not quite there, that's what you want. Okay. And then what I want you to do from that point on is take your ruler, take the bottom of the loop, and I can see here that it's not quite 90 degrees, so I'm going to change that, fix it up There we go. And take the bottom. We're going to measure 3/4 of an inch, or if you're metric, 2 centimeters. It's not exactly the same measurement, but it's close enough. So 3/4 of an inch from the bottom of that loop, and then take your flush cutters and snip it off at that 3/4 of an inch. And then if you make a bunch of these earrings, which these are great earrings to have at a flea market, or, you know, wherever you're selling your earrings. They're simple, quick earrings to do. And this just makes the process of making them that much faster. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside at the moment. Now, I want you to take your 2 pieces of 6.5 inches of 22 gauge wire, and we're going to bend it at 2 inches. So you're going to need your ruler. Two inches, give it a bend, and you can do that with both of them. Okay, and now we're going to make a loop. This is the short end. Here's where the beads are going to go on. So we're going to use the long end to make the loop. And we're going to do 1 regular loop and 1 backwards loop to make the reversal, to make them mirrored. Okay, so this is just a regular ordinary loop, and we're going to wrap it 3 times. So it's going to look like 4, but it's actually 3. Okay, so that's going to look like 4. I'm going to put that down, and that'll dictate the direction that the wire is going to go. And now the backwards loop, I'm sure many of you know this by now, is normally you bring the wire on this side. We're going to make it go the opposite side. And it's harder to do your wraps, so I'm just going to flip it around. Three wraps. Okay, it's not quite neat, never is with the backwards loop. So what I'm going to do is take, because the earrings I'm making right now are with the rondelles, I'm going to take my rondelle and use it as the large rondelle and use it as a tool. So this is a nice little trick that you can do other times too, but I'm using it a lot with this pair of earrings. So I'm going to hold the end of the wire here, and I'm going to use this bead and pull, and that'll cinch up that wire nice and neat. And there, it's perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to take one of my 3mm rondelles and put it on there and wrap this around. So this is like this, I call this my C wrap. And then wrap it around so that the wire goes the opposite direction. And now I'm going to use my 6mm bead as a tool again to cinch that up. And I'm pulling tight, very tight. And not only is it cinching up the wrapping there, it's cinching up the C as well. Okay, and now I'm going to put in the next little rondelle. And wrap around like that. Cinch it up. Okay. And I see that it's all twisted, so I'm going to quickly twist it. I mean, like these aren't sitting straight. They unravel to some degree. So we always need to fix it up. And sometimes you have to be careful. You don't want to break the glass, but I'm going to use my pliers to twist because it's so tiny you can't grip it. And I'm there so that it's all flat like that. And as we go, we keep fixing it up. It's a lot easier to do it as you go. Got the third bead on, wrap it around. And I'm going to end it so that it's going to be at the back, because this is where we're going to cut it. And before I cinch it up, I'm going to cut it at the back. And I'm going to try and cut as close as possible to the wire. There was lots of wire left over. Now you could, so I gave you lots of wire just in case you chose to use larger beads. Because if you don't have these tiny ones, this process could be done with a little bit larger bead. The larger beads, I'm crimping it in now. The larger beads, I usually use 20 gauge wire, but it's easier to make these with 22 gauge wire for sure. Okay. And you see there's a lot of space in there. And that's going to be fixed. We're going to cinch that up. Okay, am I happy with that? Needs a little bit of flattening, I think. And if this bends on you, you straighten it so it's nice and straight. This is finer gauge wire, so it's not as strong, so it can bend on your customer, but you know what? It can be easily bent back too, so don't stress out about that. Okay, because a pair of earrings is the jewelry that has the least physical touch, least play. It'll stand up better. I wouldn't want to do this for a necklace. It's a little bit too fine for a necklace. Okay, so this is where we use our template, because we're going to do the spiral, and it's going to be our measurement for the spiral. So what I want you to do is hold it upside down, because this is loose. And you're going to put this right here. See, it has movement. That's okay, because we're going to take it off. We're just using it as a measurement tool. And so what I want you to do is you're going to be pushing it tight against the bead, which pushes the bead down too. And when you do that, once you have it all tight, like I'm pulling like that, then you hold it together and you put your flush cutter right up against that, and that's where you cut it off. See, it cut perfectly. And now I want you to look at that last loop of the C-wrap, okay? And it tells us which way I want to bend, or you want to bend the wire. So it's on this side. We're going to bend this wire this side, and we're going to hold that bead tight down. I'm holding it really tight against the beads, and now I'm pushing this wire the opposite direction like that. And then we're going to make our spiral going this way, so that the spiral is continuing the pattern. And we went around like this, and now the spiral is going to go like that. So it continues the wave in a way. So now take your chain nose pliers, and we're going to do the spiral. And so you're going to make that tiny little loop at the very end of your wire like that. And I crimp it down. I crimp it down almost all the way, and then I crimp it back. So now I'm squishing this way. Well, it's blurry. Okay, so I crimped it down this way a little bit. And now I'm crimping it this way. to try and close up that loop. And it's a lot easier with the 22 gauge, and it doesn't seem to mar the wire as much because you don't have to grip as hard. And if you have a little bit of airspace, that's okay, but just try to make both of the earrings very similar. So basically, it's the exact same process for the two earrings. So you just want to make sure that that spiral is centered. And you might have a little bit of play with that bead, and that's okay. But you try not to make it too big. So now just do the check to make sure everything's flat again. If it's not, do your adjustments. And I'm not going to make the second earring on the video because the direction of the wire is going to dictate what direction you do. Sorry. Yeah, because this one, the wire was going this way, so it started with the C-wrap that way. And this one, it's going this way, so the C-wrap's going to start that way. And it's automatically good if you follow the rule of being the opposite way of the last C, you bend the other way. So this next one, it's going to be wrapped here, and you're going to bend it there, that way, the opposite way. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make my second one, and I will be right back. Okay, so I'm done my second one, and hopefully you're done your second one as well. And now they're just ready to put the ear wires on, which I won't do in front of you either. We're just about done. And there they are, all complete. Okay, well, thank you for joining me in this video. I hope that they were enjoyable to make, and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.